Okay, hello. Hello, my dear friend.
Hello. It's way past my bedtime, but hopefully we can knock this out and I still make sense.
And for those of you that don't know what time it is 6:17 in Seattle, Washington, and it is 9:17 in Atlanta, Georgia, where Erin currently resides.
And I'm in my mid 40s and that's much past my bedtime because I've been up since 5 a.m.
Oh, you're so hardcore. But guess what? We're about to talk about travel, which will give us a little bit of bliss before you go to bed. You can think about that instead of the world falling apart.
That's right. I would rather travel anywhere, but current where I am. So it'll be just fine.
Okay, well, good. Okay, so I was thinking about our podcast, and I was thinking of all my friends, you are the person that can just, if I say, hey, Erin, we have 7 days somewhere, we have 5 days somewhere, what can we do? You have the gift, the ability to take those 5 days, those 7 days, and just pack everything in. I mean, go from one side of a state to the next, or one side of a country to the next. Like you have a gift. Okay.
No, the motivation behind like what I like to do to travel is there's just as much fun in it for me as to plan all of the routes. Like I completely deep dive into like what do the locals do? Where is this? What's off the beaten track? What's a little bit weird? I'm sort of like a overage hipster at heart. So I'm like, what can I do that's the weirdest, most ridiculous thing in this place? I want to do all the touristy stuff, but I also want to know like where the crappiest taco stand is, and like where the weirdest street art is, and if they have a cat colony, then I'm down with that. So I want to
Right.
stay in a place that has a petting zoo or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And so I think I overplan when I start off researching a trip, but then
Hmm.
I try to use it more like a guide and less like a itinerary. And so I
Yeah.
have lists and lists and lists upon lists of things to do.
Right.
And so like one of the places, like what we're going to talk about is the few times that I've gone to Puerto Rico, just because Puerto Rico, like I like to travel internationally. You do too. Like there's so many
Hmm.
places that I would like to be, but like Puerto Rico, it's part of the United States. So it's just easy to go. Anybody can go there, but there's just so much stuff to do. There's rainforests and there's crazy coral reefs and there's like so much culture and the people there are amazing. And I'm like, if it's part of the United States, we might as well go. So why not do it? It's easy.
Well, okay, so just so that people can get an idea who have not visited Puerto Rico before, from Atlanta, Georgia, about how long is that flight there?
Uh, I I think it's about the same as like if you go to like Cancun. I want to say like 2.5, 3 hours. It's not definitely not far.
Right.
There's direct flights. You can go straight into San Juan. There may be flights to other parts of the island, but I don't know. It's such a small island. I have always just flown into San Juan and either taken a taxi, taken a bus, rented a car to get to the places outside of San Juan that I wanted to travel.
And do you convert your dollars, your US dollars, whenever you get there or before you go?
No, it's a dollar. You just use a dollar.
Okay, see that's I'm not gonna lie, that's what I thought, but I'm like, let me just make sure, so we can cover all
No,
the
no, no. I mean, it should be a state, but we don't want to give them all of the state rights that the rest of the states have. But no, you could just it's just like traveling to, Texas. It's the same situation. You just get on a
right.
flight and you go there. I mean, there's a little more self-contained, I think, but for the most part, it's exactly like being in the United States as far as like the logistics and things like that go.
Yeah, and again, for somebody who's never been, if you don't speak Spanish, can you get around well there?
100%. I
Okay.
mean, I would say that everybody there is at least bilingual. Some people their like native tongue may be Spanish more than English, but anybody that's working in any sort of tourism, hospitality, service industry speaks English. It's not like going to like central Mexico or down into like Central America. Everybody there speaks English.
Okay. So for these listeners who were like, yo, Puerto Rico, I've heard it's great, but don't have a clue, like, why would I go there? I'm sure the first thing somebody would think is, oh, beach, great food, great music. You know, you hear about just people being awesome and kind. What has brought you to Puerto Rico on, what have you been, 3 times now?
Yeah, I the first time I went was in 2014, and I honestly think that the reason I went is I was like scrolling through like Lonely Planet. They were like top destinations that are off the beaten path, and so there was this little island off the coast of Puerto Rico, which is actually part of Puerto Rico, called Colibra.
Mm-hmm.
It's off of the eastern coast, and so I was like,
Okay.
oh, that looks amazing. And so it was like rated one of the top 10 or 20, I don't know, top beaches in the world, called Flamenco Beach, that's there. And then plus it's just like it's a short ferry ride. I think it costs like $3 for the
Okay.
ferry ride from eastern Puerto Rico onto the island. So I just did some research and looked up, like, and I don't even think it was Airbnbs. This was back in 2014, so I know that there were Airbnbs, but I think that we just booked
Yeah.
through like a private rental company. It was like called like Casa Tropical. It was this lady, it was this expat. I don't know where she was from, somewhere in the Midwest. Her name was Mary. And so she met us on the ferry in her golf cart and then took us to,
Thanks, Mary.
yeah. And so once we got off the ferry, so what we did is we flew into San Juan, and then I think it was just like it wasn't a bus, but it wasn't a taxi. It was like a shuttle bus or whatever to
Mm-hmm.
Fajardo, which is on, and I'm probably butchering the name of that, but I think that's how you say it, on the western coast. And so then we just hopped on the ferry, and the ferries run I want to say like every hour from like 4:30 in the morning until 6 in the evening. So you can
Oh,
just,
wow.
because I'm sure that people live on the island, work on the mainland, and vice versa.
Yeah. Commute back and forth.
Yeah, so we went in February, which was almost perfect weather. It was, I mean, because
Mm.
it's close to the equator, so it's not, they don't have seasons. I remember sitting in one restaurant when I was down there, and the guy was like, because I was like, oh my God, you live in paradise. It must be amazing. He was like, yeah, he's like, but I miss like leaves falling. He's like, the leaves never fall off the trees here. He's like, it's always just this temperature.
I think I'd be okay with that.
I mean, I feel like I would too. It's been real cold in Atlanta this year. There's been several snow days that have happened. But yeah, so that was the first time that I went. And so it was on this little island, and the whole downtown was probably about a block and a half long. There was like a little grocery store, a couple of little restaurants, there was a dive shop, and then there was like this kind of hole in the wall bar called the Dinghy Dock, where all of the people drove up their boats, because like there's mainland Puerto Rico, which it's still a tiny island.
Right.
I would say it's probably like the size of Connecticut, maybe a little bigger. It's just not big.
Mm-hmm.
I could be way off. Somebody's going to be like, no, it's not. It's actually the size of Kansas. And you're really wrong. But anyway, it's small. And so then off the eastern coast, there's Vieques, and then there is Culebra. And Culebra is smaller, but it's like more inhabited. Vieques, I guess, was a military training facility up until like 2003, like where they would just do military drills, like drop bombs upon bombs upon bombs, like test out all of our artillery and stuff. So Culebra is better to visit. I think they're still in the process of cleaning up all of the military stuff off Vieques.
And that is and so you said,
It's off
like,
the eastern coast.
okay.
So like
Okay. So,
San Juan, which is the capital city, is on
mm-hmm.
the north central coast
Okay.
of Puerto Rico. So when you fly in, you just kind of go straight down. So you're at the very top, in the middle of the island. And so then you
Uh-huh.
take, I think it was like a couple hours in the taxi, shuttle bus, whatever it was, to get us to the coast. And then it was like another 45 minutes to get to the island. And like I said, the
Gotcha.
island was teeny tiny, but I mean, they're self-contained there. There's a little airport. You could charter a plane, but I was broke, so we took a ferry. It was $2. I think chartering a plane was a couple $100, so $2 seemed better. Uh, but but once we got there, it was really easy to get around by bike. So the place that we stayed, she did a really good job of like leaving out like all of the things to do and what grocery stores and what time they're open, and if you want to rent this, or if you want to rent a golf cart, if you want to blah blah blah. Well, I am a big cyclist, so I was like, oh, let's rent bikes. And
Yeah.
so And so it's not like there's a bike rental shop. What there was this guy, and I kid you not, I think he was called the Bud Man or the Weed Man or the like something like that. And you would just text him and tell him your location, and then he would drive up in this like completely hollowed out VW bus and just drop you off two bikes. And he's like, here you go, just text me when you're done, or you can leave them down on Main Street, like the street, and drop them
No
back off.
way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm guessing that like there was GPS locators on these bikes or something.
I mean, the island is very small, and if he's the only guy that's renting the bikes, everybody assumes they probably belong to him. Like if it's
Okay, so you just put the size of that island in perspective for me. Like
it's
the fact that he's like, I'm not even worried about it. Where are you going to go with my bike?
what are you doing with this bike? And it wasn't like it was a nice bike. It was it may have had gears, but they weren't great gears.
But it's pretty flat, right? It's pretty flat.
No, it's not,
No.
turns out. So
What?
we went to this beach, and it's called Flamenco Beach, and it was the one that I was telling you about that was supposed to be like the top whatever most beautiful beaches, maybe in the Caribbean. I don't remember what list. It was on some list. But we
Hmm.
got there and it was fine. You paid like a $5 entry fee. And I think that included, like, it was probably helps with the bathroom upkeep. And there was like a little concession stand and whatever.
Yeah.
So we were there for maybe an hour or two. And we're like, okay, well, this is dumb. And the water was really choppy on that side of the island. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And I mean, I think it was overcast. It was maybe if it would have been sunny and beautiful, we would have thought much differently about that.
Yeah.
So then we decided to go to this other beach that was supposed to be more private called Zoni, like Zoni. So I think that's how you
Okay.
say it. Um,
Zony.
but they have a sea turtle kind of like sanctuary, like it's a protected area or whatever. And so we're like, let's just go there. It's just over here. And it looked like it was really close. Well, it was like straight up a hill over there. So so we biked and about died getting up to the beach. But once we got there, the water was really pretty and really clear. And I had all of my like snorkeling gear. So we got in the water and it was February. So it was a little cold. But like I said, they don't have a whole lot of seasons. But we got in the water and I got to swim with sea turtles. They were just swimming around because we were the only people on the beach and it was lovely.
That's amazing. Oh, I
So,
love a good sea turtle. Okay, so just for my own personal knowledge, your
yes,
bike ride that you just said was a little rough.
right.
Compare it to the bike ride in Guatemala where you flew off the top of your bike over the
Well,
bridge.
Well, that was because I didn't go fast enough to go over whatever it was. I just like ran into a ditch, I think, on that. I should have
I'll
done
never
It
forget
was poor
your feet
execution.
flying. Like, I just remember seeing your feet flying through the air. And like, my first instinct was like, oh my God, I hope she's not dead. But then when I saw you were okay, God, that I'll
Oh,
never forget that.
it was slow motion because, like I said, I didn't have enough speed going over. I guess it was a bridge. I don't know. Everybody else did it fine. I don't understand why it was such a fail. But no, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to make it. Oh, here I go, completely head over handlebars, right, right on top of my brand new tattoo.
Oh my God. Okay, so you guys rode these bikes in Puerto Rico, and like, did you keep them for the whole day, or did you
Yeah,
keep
I
them
think it was just
overnight?
no, we
Yeah.
didn't keep 'em overnight. It was just that day. But no, it was a much shorter bike ride, but a much steeper bike ride. So you could like
Okay.
bebop around the island. I mean, it was really amazing. Everybody there was lovely. The thing about Colibra though, compared to the rest of Puerto Rico, is it's really a big like expat community. So like I said, like Mary from Michigan or Wisconsin or whatever, wherever she was from, was like a
Hmm.
a real like Midwestern American person. Whereas like when you're on like the mainland of Puerto Rico, it's not quite as much of like just an expat community. This was just like, and I maybe it's like ex-military people because it was a military base or training facility on Vieques.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like a lot of retirees had come down there. So it's just like this tiny little island, and it's like mostly like a nature sanctuary, but it was, I mean, it was so lovely and everybody there was nice. And so, of course, because I like to scuba dive, I
Hmm.
found the one little dive shop on the island. And then we went over near Vieques and like dove down. But like there was a ton of like sea life. I don't think it was actually on a reef. There's parts of Puerto Rico that are on a reef, but this was like we dove
Uh-huh.
down and saw like decommissioned like mortar shells and stuff from where they had just tested artillery on Vieques and stuff. And so they're like, if you see, he showed us pictures. He's like, if you see this, it could be live. Don't touch it. But if you see this, they've already deactivated it. I was like, oh, okay, great.
Wait, hold on. So and you were like, "Yeah, this looks like fun. Yeah, let's go."
Well,
I mean,
I don't think I knew that until we like got on the boat and he was like giving us our little like dive briefing. But I was like, oh, okay, cool. I think we saw like one or two, but lots of barracudas. I mean, it was tons of like conch. I mean, I like to dive, whether or not the visibility is good or not. But like Puerto Rico is some of the most fun diving that I've had just because the water's warm and there's lots of wildlife.
is the visibility good?
The visibility is good. The coral reefs are suffering. Like just from when I
Mm.
went in 2014 to when I went the last time in 2021, you can just see how much of the coral reefs have died off. I mean, just like
Yeah,
everywhere, it's just like they're taking a beating. Climate change is a real thing.
that sucks. Ugh. Okay, so you went diving, and then I feel like was this the end of your time on the island?
Yeah, that was basically it. After, I mean, we went kayaking around. There's like, because the little island is only settled on one part of it, and because it is so
Mhm.
rocky and so mountainous, there's not a lot of people living outside of where the little town is. And
Mhm.
so I kayaked around the island, and then we got off on this like little rocky ledge, and there was lots of little tide pools. I mean, it was fun. It was just like a little nature thing.
Yeah.
I will 100% be back here because, like I said, as far as logistics go, you can't beat it. It's like you're at a tropical island or in another country, but you're part of the United States. So it's so easy to get from like point A to point B.
What brought you back to Puerto Rico the second time?
A wedding. Um,
Woohoo!
yes, for
Yes, I love a good wedding.
Yes, for some friends of mine, they decided to have a destination wedding down there, and I don't know why. They'd been to Puerto Rico before, and I think, and that's why they wanted to have it there. So they had their wedding at this very nice resort outside of San Juan, like on
Mhm.
the in the touristy spots. So
Right?
of course we went down there. There was a bunch of us that went down and went to the wedding, and it was beautiful. But then got to spend some time afterwards, like in Old San Juan and some other stuff. Like we went bioluminescent kayaking.
Ooh, I've always wanted to do that. How was it?
It was really cool. So back on the other side of the island, that's near the ferry that I was talking about before,
Yeah.
it's called Mosquito Bay, and it's like in between where the ferry takes off and Vieques, and it's this whole bioluminescent bay. And so when you kayak through, anytime like you hit your paddle in the water, these like I guess bioluminescent like plankton, they are like underwater lightning bugs. And so when stuff moves them, they like flash. And so it just looks like a complete glowing iridescent trail when you're like
Wow.
behind people paddling.
That is awesome. And so this would be something you would just do at night?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's only at night. I mean, I you could probably kayak. I think it was like through mangroves and stuff. As far as the bioluminescent stuff, yes, totally at night. And I think it was, like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive from San Juan. So we had a
Mhm.
bunch of us had rented cars. I rented a car because I was going to go diving.
Of
And this is
course.
and this is where I found out that like Puerto Rican drivers are completely my people because I'm a horrible driver. And so everybody in Puerto Rico also not great. So and
Sorry, Puerto Rico.
sorry, Porter. Sorry, not sorry. Not great. And so, like when you're merging onto a highway, they just stop instead of like going on the on ramp, or they just like are like, oh, this isn't the right way, and just like will flip a U-turn right in the middle across all lanes of traffic. And I'm like, yes, you are my people.
They
Just drive how you feel. Drive how you feel.
oh my okay, so you rented the car and you just felt comfortable driving, right?
I don't think you can feel comfortable driving because it's complete chaos. But I felt like if I didn't feel comfortable driving, I could just stop in the middle of traffic or whatever and regain my composure and then go along. And nobody was going to care. I mean, they're going to honk, maybe not, who knows. But yeah, so I had to drive everybody to the side of the island because when you rent a car, there's however many drivers. I was the only one listed on the driver. So I was like, all right, pile in.
Mhm.
Let's go drive to the other side of the island and go kayaking.
That sounds wonderful. Did you drive back that night, even though it's 2 hours away?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, there's not that many main roads. And so I think that we were just like kind of on a straight shot, like interstate from San Juan all the way out there.
Right.
It was, it wasn't like we were going on back roads. And so that was basically my second trip is like, it was the wedding. And then we kind of ventured around, explored a bunch of old San Juan. And there's like a ton of history in old San Juan. They have a couple of
Mm-hmm.
forts because like there's San Juan, which is like where the capital, the city proper, there's, Marriott's and fancy resorts and like
Mm-hmm.
City Hall and
Right.
all of the stores that you would expect. And then like Old San Juan is like the historic district, which is the old downtown, and it's like a fortified city. So when you go
Mm-hmm.
inside Old San Juan, it's basically there's a fort on each side and this huge stone wall that goes all the way around the perimeter of the city. So when you're in Old San Juan, you feel like that you're like in old Spain.
That's nice.
So, but it's completely different.
Okay. So it's not like Vegas and old downtown Vegas.
No.
there's there's a little bit more of differentiation
Well, yeah,
between the two.
I mean, just a little bit. I mean, there's some stuff in Old San Juan. There's this bar called the Marilyn Monroe Bar, which is
Ooh.
it sounds much fancier than it is. What it is it's just kind of like it's like an outdoor bar. And by outdoor, I mean I don't think there's doors on it. And so it's basically you walk up and it's like inside, but like all the seats and stuff face the outside. And I've been there now a couple times and there's always like a bar cat that's wandering around. And then like to go to the bathroom, you have to go through this like because it's part of the old city. It's like down this hallway, and then you go through this weird side door, which looks like a hobbit hole, or like where
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter lives under the stairs. Like you have to duck to get into the bathroom. But everything in there is decorated with Marilyn Monroe. I'm like,
Oh wow.
such a weird bar.
I think the only thing that could make that more you would be if it had a tattoo parlor in it.
It didn't, but there is a tattoo parlor around the corner. There, I've gotten a tattoo in Old San Juan for sure.
Have you? Of course you have.
Yeah,
Of course.
it was this my friend April who went down there with me when we all went to that wedding. Her and I went and
Hmm.
got tattoos together. And so I wanted a little sea turtle with the Puerto Rican flag in the middle, which I was like, that'll be cute. Well,
Hmm.
the guy who was from Puerto Rico drew the flag wrong. So now I have a sea turtle with like some sort of like bastardization of the Puerto
Wait,
Rican flag.
wait, you didn't like he didn't put it on? Like he didn't
He
put
put
the outline on it first
Yeah,
and you didn't
100%
approve
he
it?
did. And I did that. And then he filled in, because you know how the Puerto Rican flag is white and red and blue, like the blue triangle on
Right.
the end with the stars, and then it red and then white stripes in the middle.
Yes.
No, he filled in the stripes black. So it's like they should have been left white. It's fine. It's whatever. Now it just looks
Oh
like I
my
have a sea
god.
turtle. So I'm like,
Can I just do a little side note? And this is just because me and you are besties. My favorite tattoo story of yours is whenever you got back from Mexico.
oh yeah.
And I think it was that when. Oh, that was that your dive flag? Was it that
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Remind me what happened when
Oh
you
my
went,
gosh.
like where it was at.
So I'd also gone, it was the first time I went to Mexico actually, and it was for a wedding. And so
Uh
after
huh.
we got off the resort from the wedding, we went to Playa del Carmen to just like spend an extra few days bebopping around and doing whatever. And so,
Hmm.
like you, if I'm like someplace cool, I'm like, I want to get a tattoo while I'm here. Let's just do that. Just like a
Yeah.
little like travel, like banger tattoo. I was like, let's do that. So
Yes.
I was wandering all over this place for like a whole day, and I was like, there are no tattoo parlors anywhere. Like, why what is happening? And so I was like, fine, I guess I'm not going to worry about it. And so the next day we were like bebopping down like the main little stretch. Like, I think we went to Starbucks, but
That
del-
Mexican coffee.
delish. So I was like walking down the street, and this lady was like, oh, I like your tattoos. Do you want more? And I was like, oh my God, yes. So and
Of
so
course.
and so she was like, okay. And then she's like, okay, well, come up with me. And so we went upstairs to like this tattoo studio, and I made an appointment like for the next day. I was telling the guy what I wanted because I had gone diving. And so there's these underwater caves that you can go in Mexico called the cenotes, but it's spelled like
Mhm.
cenote, Cenote. And I was like, so what I want, because I thought I was being really clever, is this dive flag, and I want like a musical staff on it, and then I want a bunch of notes on the sea line. And he was like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he's like, what I think, yeah, he's completely understanding. And I was like, okay. So he's like, come back the next day. So I went back the next day, and he was like doing, and I again approved the outline that he was doing, but I guess
Mhm.
upside down and backwards, I thought it was on the right line, but it wasn't. And so and so as I sat there, I had like he had this little like coronitas, like the little baby coronas. And so he had like a
Yeah.
bucket of those. He's like, here you go, da da da. And he had this like assistant guy that kept coming out and in, whatever. And I was like, at one point I was like, I feel like that they're doing drug deals. But I'm not gonna delve much more into that. And so then I kept seeing the lady that like walked me up to the tattoo shop the day before, bringing these men up and taking them into the back room, like, but because it was like you walked up and there was like this little bar, and then he like looked like it was like it looked like he was in a cubicle. There was like file cabinets and whatever. I wasn't sure what was going on. It was very brightly, weirdly lit, but there was like this bar and restaurant, and then I guess behind there were these rooms. So basically, this lady is taking these guys up because they would stay up for a while because this tattoo took way too long for what it is, and then the guys would come out, and then I would see these girls come out, and I was like, oh my God, I was like, I think I'm in a brothel, and I'm like, so I'm getting a tattoo by this guy. And so I was like, hey, I was like trying to make small talk through broken English. And I'm like, so where did you learn to tattoo? And he was like, prison. And I was like, okay, great. All right, cool. Man of few words. And I was like, all right, great. And so then once he got finished with my tattoo, I looked at it and I was like, the music notes were backwards. And then they were all on the E line and not the C. And I was like, okay. I was like, so now they're just backwards E notes on this diver tattoo. So I was
Mhm.
like, how much? And he told me how much. And so I paid him. And I was like, I just want to get out of this weird brothel situation where the drug deals are happening. And he was, you're not going to tip me. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, sure, sure. Here you go. And so I was like, I don't want to tip you. It's not what I wanted. And it's so big. It's one of the bigger tattoos on my arm.
It is. I remember seeing your
Yeah.
Enote
Yeah,
tattoo for the first time.
Enote. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's, I'm looking at it right now. I was like, a lot of it's faded out, but it's gonna be there forever.
Well, you'll never forget that trip. That's for sure.
Yeah, so my Puerto
That's
Rico
ingrained.
one at least was not that level. He was a nice guy, and
Good. That's
so
good. So that was your second trip to Puerto Rico,
yeah.
and you had a great time.
Yeah, no, the second, yeah, and I would recommend Old San Juan to anybody. There's a lot of history there. Like, there's this
Right.
bar called El Batey where like Hunter S. Thompson used to hang out. The movie,
It's cool.
what is it, The Rum Diaries was based in like Old Town San Juan. So, I mean, there's lots of cool history.
Yeah.
They have like a bunch of like little city walks that you can walk around like inside like the fortified city. And the cool thing about it is I was talking about how there were street cats at the Maryland bar. There's street cats all over because they have such, I guess, a rat problem because it's just wet and humid and like everything's outdoors. So they have all these little cat feeders, like there's little cat colonies all around on the walking trail. So there's
Huh.
tons of little cats.
And it keeps the rat population under control, I'm sure. So, okay, so old downtown, that's the spot to go as well. And do you need, if somebody flies in, do they need to rent a car
No, no,
to
no.
enjoy Puerto Rico? Okay.
You don't like if you want to travel outside of San Juan, then yes. I don't think there's much public transportation. They may have like some sort of shuttle or whatever. There's lots of taxis, there's Ubers, all of that. So you can get around
Hmm.
really easily. If you're in Old San Juan, you can just walk around. There's so much stuff to
Right.
do walking. And especially if you're through any of the resorts and stuff, they can take you to wherever. There's so much stuff that you can find on like TripAdvisor and Airbnb like experiences and stuff that, yeah, you don't need a car unless you just want to drive around.
Okay, so you've been to Puerto Rico twice, and old downtown San Juan is a happening spot to visit when you're there. Tell us about the third time that you went to Puerto Rico. What was your itinerary like?
So the third time was because it was like right after the COVID restrictions were starting to sort of relax, because I turned 40 in 2020. And so like
Ooh,
me and one of my really good friends who was celebrating her 50th birthday in 2020, we wanted to have like this big blowout in Italy because she's Italian. So we were going to
nice.
go, had this whole trip planned and all this stuff and going to go to Italy. Well, that went to hell in a handbasket when the pandemic came down, and it especially
Hmm.
hit Italy really hard. So everybody was getting really stir crazy, and this was like the middle of 2021, and we're like, where can we go? And so,
Hmm.
like I said, because Puerto Rico is part of the United States, there weren't the strict like restrictions that there were in other places, like for
Right.
international travel and all of that stuff. And at this
Mhm.
point, we were all vaccinated. We all felt safe enough that about traveling, at least domestically. So it's like I think late April of 2021, we all went down. There was like six of us went down to Puerto Rico, and so there was like four of us that were like in my little group, and then we met two other people when we got to the west side, because I was like, well, I've been to Puerto Rico. I don't want to kind of do the same stuff that I've already done. What can I
Right.
do? And because I love a good road trip, I started researching
Hmm.
scenic drives and how to make it out there. And they had decided that they wanted to stay on the western coast, like near Rincon, like where all the surfing and stuff happens on that side of the
Hmm.
island.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there's not much to do out there outside of just, sit on the beach and watch surfers and do whatever. So my idea was to rent a car and just take our time getting there. And so there's this thing that Puerto Rico has called the Ruta Panoramica, which is basically like the scenic route. And so it's
Right.
their old scenic, and it's like a historical national trail or whatever you would call it. It's a historically protected like roadway, and there's just
Hmm.
bits and pieces of the map because there's parts of the road kind of like Route 66 that are like all the way gone. Some of it's like in the jungle now. So I did my best to like piece together how we could drive this Ruta Panoramica as far as we could to get over to the other side of the island, starting from San Juan, because we flew into San Juan, picked up our rental car, and then got out of Dodge. And my friend Christina that went with us, she's a big foodie. And so I was like, we were looking at
Mm.
places to go. And this is like, I want to say it was like right after Anthony Bourdain died. It may have been right before. I can't remember.
Uh,
And so I was like, let's see where he went. Did he go to Puerto Rico? So I was like doing all this Googling, and I was like, oh, he did. And there's this place. It's this whole area kind of southeast of San Juan called the Pork Highway.
pork, like Pork.
Pork, like pigs.
Oh,
Pork
yes.
Highway. And so it's just all of these restaurants that just basically they're these open air places where they roast like whole pigs for like hours or days. And so you just can go and like
Mm.
eat all of this authentic food stall type food in this one section of the country. And so Christina was like, 100% down. Let's go. And so it was great. It was great for everybody except for my friend Janine, who is a vegetarian.
Yeah, I was
And she's like,
about
what am I going to eat? And I was like, they'll probably have mofongo. It's the best. Eat all of the plantains. It'll be the best. It'll be fine. So we did, and it was amazing. Like there was just all these different vendors that had all this different food. We stopped at like one of the main places. I think that there's just places to eat all along, but it
okay.
was later in the afternoon, and so some of the places were closed. I think we flew in on a Monday or something weird, so half the places were closed anyway. But it was delicious, and it was like the most authentic. Like, and there was also like fresh seafood that they had caught, and like all of this stuff. There was chicken.
Mm.
There was tons of stuff to eat. So
So if somebody is a foodie, you're like, yes, add Puerto Rico to your list.
oh my gosh, 100%. There's tons of things to eat. Mofongo is my favorite, and like all the stuff they do with plantains. And mofongo is kind of like I want to say it's like, to me, it's sort of like a mix between like mashed potatoes and like grits, but with plantains. So it can be
Mm.
savory. I think you can do it for breakfast, or it's whatever you mix into it, but it just sort of looks like
Hmm.
a bundt cake made out of mashed plantains.
That sounds delicious.
Delicious. So, and they serve
Mm.
plantains with everything. Highly
As
recommend.
they should.
Yeah,
Yeah, as they
plantains,
should.
Lots of everything's coconut. Like, did you know that the pina colada was invented in Puerto Rico?
No.
Yeah, like you can go in Old San Juan, there's a bar that apparently like where the pina colada was invented. So of course I've been there and had pina colada. So I highly recommend. It's super touristy, it's whatever, but it's still historical. Go have a pina colada at the place where it was invented.
I
Delicioso.
would, you know what? I need to because for some reason, I guess because I was a bartender for 100 years, I just have it in my head that people who order pina coladas at like a city bar are just the worst people on earth. I don't
You're
know why. I really have no idea why. That's a terrible thing to
you're
say,
like the
but I would
blender's
just
broken, we're not doing it.
yes, yes. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, we don't have a blender or it's broken or, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I have a fear of ordering pina coladas when I'm not like at a beach or a pool or
Well, you
something
are at the
like that.
beach. It's like a tropical island, so order
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm just saying that's why I got to go to Puerto Rico so that I can just
Oh yeah.
order all the pina coladas.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
don't
just
order
talking
a
about
pina
like,
colada in Atlanta. Don't order a
yeah.
pina colada in Seattle. What are you going to do? I'm going to enjoy this rainy weather with my. Can you imagine? The next time I come visit you, I'm going to be like, "Can I get a pina colada, please?"
First of all, they don't have frozen machines around here, and I am sure somebody does. But and second, yes, we need to plan your trip out here. I can't wait for you to come back. I had such a good time with you last
Oh my
time you
God,
were
it was
here.
so fun, and the weather was amazing, and and
So
the
great.
and the naked bike ride that we did not participate in, only
Oh,
observed.
I completely forgot about the naked bike ride. That is the solstice that happens every year. And when they said naked bike ride, I was thinking, okay, like I don't know, maybe a couple people, maybe in some thongs, maybe in whatever. I didn't realize it was thousands of naked people. like
Painted.
paint. Oh yeah, they did paint a lot of their
Yeah.
body parts as well.
Oh my
So
gosh,
they
it
got
was so
creative.
bizarre. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, you guys do you. Yeah.
Okay, so Puerto Rico, you were with a foodie. You did that.
Yeah.
What else did you do on that third trip?
So I didn't realize that they have two rainforests. Like I think everybody knows about like El Yunque, which is like the big national park rainforest, but there's this other one and it's called Toro Negro. And so it's another rainforest, but it's not as popular or as famous because it's just not as close to San Juan. So
Okay.
it's not an easy drive, but it was on our little scenic route. So what we did is in the center of Puerto Rico, they grow a ton of coffee. So I found this Airbnb in the middle of Jayuya, which I'm, like I said, my Spanish pronunciation is not as good as yours.
It's okay.
It was a coffee farm. So we actually stayed on a working coffee farm, which was ridiculous. And the guy had like fresh
That's
coffee that
awesome.
he had left out for us. And so in the morning, you could just see over all of these coffee plants and like just rows. I mean, it looked like a vineyard, but coffee. And there was like peacocks and all of this stuff. So we were basically like up in the mountains. It wasn't beachy at all because Puerto Rico is really mountainous in the central part of it. And then it's
Right.
like beachy around the coast and flat,
Hmm.
and it's a completely different climate. So up in the mountains, it was really cool and green. I mean, it was amazing. So that was
Nice.
one of the coolest places that I've stayed. Like the place was spectacular. You just drove up and like I said, it was like almost 360 degrees of like panoramic views of this beautiful
Wow.
coffee farm. So, and nobody thinks about going there because it's about a 2 or 3 hour drive. If you take the scenic route, it's like 4 or 5 hours because in some places Google Maps leads you into somebody's backyard. I was like, well, this isn't the road anymore. So, so
So if you go, so you said it's up in the mountains or a more
hmm
mountainous
yeah,
area. Does your fitness level have to be at a certain point in order to enjoy that region?
no, no, because like we drove straight up in there, and so then when we went to hike at I guess it can't be a national park, so like a state park or whatever park. Anyway, the Toro Negro
Park.
like rainforest that we went. No, I think that all in all, there's about 6.5 miles of trails there, and so like the main like touristy one with the view and this old tower, I think is about 3.5 miles up and back. So
Okay.
it wasn't bad, but it was beautiful, and it wasn't as crowded as some of the other places. And so we went hiking there. It took us like half an afternoon to hike all over the place there. It's not, all the trails are pretty well marked. The only thing is like
Hmm.
it's a rainforest, so it's super slippery. So dress appropriately, layer up.
Right.
But
And
when
did you and it and is it a little bit you said it's a little bit chillier, so bring like a long sleeve layer as well?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would
Yeah.
say if you're, especially if you're, just because the elevation is so much, I would say you're probably 50, 60 degrees as opposed to like if you're down on the coast where it's like, high 70s, 80s. And this was like in
Okay.
April. Assuming it's probably a little warmer in the summertime, but no, it was just a thing to do in the afternoon. We're like, let's get out, let's do whatever. It had some amazing views. We saw some wildlife. We we had a we had a park ranger escort, which was a dog that lived at the ranger station. So he walked with us the whole way up. He was the best guide. By the time we got
That's
up there,
awesome.
and then we got like halfway back down, and one of the forest rangers called him by name, was like, "Is he bothering you?" I was like, "No, he's been our guide the whole way up. He was a sweetheart."
Do you
So
remember his name?
I don't even think he had a name. I think they just called him Dog. He just was like a stray that had just lurked around the ranger station. So of course everybody fed him. And so, because I was like, "Can I feed him?" And she's like, "I mean, everybody else does." So it's like, "All right, cool. Here, have half
Mhm.
of my sandwich."
I would not be sharing my sandwich. But anyways, go ahead.
So yeah, so I mean, it was just more off the beaten trail stuff. So like, because everybody goes and they go to San Juan, they go to the main rainforest, they go to Rincon
Hmm.
for like the surf beaches and stuff. But this was just sort of a road trip detour as opposed to going to all the destinations that everybody goes to.
Right.
So that was like we stayed there for a couple days, stayed on the coffee farm, had some of the best coffee ever. And
That's
then
awesome.
we drove straight down the coast. And so if San Juan is like the capital of Puerto Rico, then Ponce is like the second biggest city, and it's on the southern coast. And so we drove through there, and they had some really pretty churches. It's not quite as big or like cosmopolitan, but it's all of
Hmm.
this old Spanish architecture. It was beautiful. There was a
That's
lot,
nice.
yeah, but it was, if like up in the mountains was nice and cool and temperate, down at Ponce on the southern side of the island was blazing hot. So we quick stopped there, saw some street performers, took some pictures at churches, and then drove up the coast to go meet our friends that had come in from San Juan and drove just due west as we like went all the way around the island.
So
So
you road tripped it with 6 people, you said?
yeah, there were 6 people total. Two of our friends flew into San Juan and drove west and met us in Rincon. And then we drove east and down through the Pork Highway and then through the central part where all of the rainforests and like the coffee farms and stuff up in the mountains. And then we drove back down south and all the way around.
Okay. So for any of our listeners who are like, this sounds amazing, this sounds like right up my adventure alley, just give me an idea as far as accommodations and car rentals. Is it affordable per se?
The accommodations, especially in 2021, were really affordable. The food, because it's an island, the food is going to be more than like what you're probably paying in like the mainland United States, just because, they have to import a lot of stuff. They do grow a lot of their own stuff, but there's just stuff that you can't import or that you can't just grow on a little island. So a lot of stuff has to be imported. So I mean, you're going to pay more for food everywhere, but like the central region's a lot cheaper than like staying in the more popular like resort towns. So I think that the car rental was basically on par with like renting a car anywhere in the United States. It was probably
Okay.
between like 50 and like $75 a day. I don't know if we got like a,
Hmm.
a week rental. And we just had, and the roads were fine. I think we had I think it had four-wheel drive, but we didn't have to use it. It was just like a little mini SUV. It wasn't
Hmm.
a big car at all. I, I think we had requested something else, but they basically do their rental cars like first come, first serve. And so by the time we got there, like they were almost out of cars. And I was like, what? That's not how this works. But and I also think part of that was due to the fact that we came like right after the COVID restrictions lifted when everybody was trying to get out of Dodge and like go anywhere that they could. So
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, my advice would be, pack for layers. If you're going to the beach, make sure you have beach stuff. You're going to be up in the mountains, pack your like hiking gear or raincoats. And I mean, it's a tropical island, so it rains almost every day, but
Hmm.
not all day. It's not going to rain all day. Some days it
Right.
may, like when there's a hurricane that comes through, but you know,
Right. But you can plan your days around
Yeah.
afternoon showers or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Bring a little poncho or like a little rain jacket in a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the shoes that I had were like kind of flip-floppy, like water shoes and like hiking boots.
Right. Basically, if you are adventurous and like to go hiking, like to go diving, like to go kayaking, I mean, it's limitless on this island of Puerto Rico. Or if you want to just go somewhere and sit for a week on the beach and order pina coladas and do
Yeah.
nothing else, it's like the best of both worlds.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then also like if you like to surf, like out on the West Coast where we ended up, they have like a surf school out there, and
Ah,
I mean it because
cool.
it faces a different side of the water, and the water's there's a lot more waves on the west side. None of us are surfers, so we didn't do that. But one day when we were there, we booked a horseback ride. So like three of us went and rode horses on the beach, and it was amazing and fun.
Nice.
And horses are very temperamental. And like it was a family-owned place in Isabella, which was a little bit outside of Rincon, so on the western side. And we were talking to the guy and his mom or who owned it, and it was really kind of recent after Hurricane Maria came through there, and he was telling us how the horses, they had like 40 horses, and they had to like put them in this barn as the hurricane was coming over. And during the eye of the hurricane, when it was like pummeling the island, when it was calm is when they went out and fed all the horses and made sure they had water and whatever. But he said that
Wow.
they didn't lose a single horse. So, and then he
Wow.
was, and because like when you drive up to this horse farm, it looks like a horse farm, but it's in this like crazy, very like hoity-toity neighborhood. So you can see like once you get past the horse farm, there's all these really like high-end houses. And he was saying that because it was so slow for them to get any sort of hurricane relief after Maria, especially outside of San Juan, especially far on the West Coast, that the people that lived in those houses were letting them use like their swimming pool water to give water to their horses to be able to drink and all of this stuff because they just
Wow.
didn't have any running water for, I think he said like 3 or 4 months after the hurricane.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, you could still see when we drove down there because like, it's a rainforest and it's tropical. And so all of the trees
Mhm.
and stuff had grown back, but you could still see all of the destruction on a ton of the buildings. Like the further you got outside of San Juan and the more you got towards the coast, the more
Mhm.
damage you could see on each side of the coast. I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's still so devastating." There was stuff that just hadn't been rebuilt yet.
Golly. But as a whole, I feel like, at least from the Puerto Ricans I know in my life, they're a pretty resilient bunch. Like they're gonna rebuild,
Oh,
right? Like
100%. Yeah. I mean,
mhm.
it was fine. I mean, they didn't didn't care that like one side of the building was missing. They were still doing whatever. Just I mean, they because they all had to band together because they weren't getting a lot of help from the mainland. But yeah, so I mean, like what I would say is if anybody is like, should I go to Puerto Rico? I think you 100% should. It's easy to get around there. Do you want to drive all the way around the island? You don't have to. There's so
Mhm.
many different things to do. There's so many different little islands like outside of that island. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to do. And it's
Good.
like going to another country, but you're still in the United States. So just like I said, the logistics are so easy to get there.
Mhm. And so tell us, you just have to have your like a driver's license,
Yeah.
ID, something. So
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
do not have to have a passport.
Nope. No passport, no visa. Your driver's license works when you're down there. Like it's just like anything else. So you just, when
Mhm.
if you rent a car, you just have your driver's license and they honor it because they are a territory. So they're part of like the United States. So all of the federal laws apply to them. Yeah. And everybody down there is like super accommodating, super friendly. I mean, it's just like any sort of beachy island, though. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot of you're gonna walk up and be like some of the best food you're gonna have. It's gonna look like you're walking into a complete shack. And then
Yeah.
but they also have very high end resorts, like all inclusive places where you can be pampered and do all of that stuff. But I mean, that's not how you or I travel. So
No. I mean, I've done it here and there. I don't know. The stories are lacking when I'm done. you
I
know?
mean, the tattoos
Um
may be better, but
the tattoo. What? It's just a tattoo. It's
yeah.
not like it's permanent. Um, but yeah, your stories are always amazing. You actually you're one of my people who just like, I don't know. If I need a good story, You're one of my go-tos, and you don't leave out any details, which is always super fun to me. And
super wordy.
I know it's late and you're tired, but I love that. I love talking travel with you just in general, but I think a lot of these points you made hopefully are helpful if somebody wants to go to Puerto Rico. And I know you've listened to my podcast before. So at the end of a podcast, I just have like a couple little, questions I usually ask to wrap it up. But for you, I changed it because my mother in my what's it called at Christmas? The stocking. Yes. In my stocking, she put a little game and you can see it. And it says Americana trivia game.
Ooh.
I just thought I'd ask you a few of these Americana trivia game questions because you're also pretty smart from time to time. Okay, so I picked.
You pull out these cards, and then you're gonna be like,
I know,
maybe not.
I know, right? Okay, so I've got 4 cards that I'm just gonna pull off the top. So here we go. Number 1. Oh yeah, you're gonna get this one. In which state will you find the U.S. side of Niagara Falls?
New York.
Oh my goodness, thank God! Because if you failed that one, I was gonna edit that out. Be like, no.
I was like, you say that, and then I'm like, hold on, please. I wanted to say like Buffalo. I think that's the city, though.
You know what? Last time I went to Niagara Falls, I went through Buffalo. I don't remember if I stayed in Buffalo, but anyways, on to the next one, and you're gonna like this one. And I'm gonna give you options A, B, C, and D. Okay. Route 66 famously has one end in Los Angeles, but which city has the other end? Is it A, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, B, Chicago, Illinois, C, Topeka, Kansas, or D, Des Moines, Iowa? Why did I say Idaho?
Chicago.
Iowa.
Chicago. And also, if you don't know, Route 66 turns 100 years old next year.
What? Okay, well, we're gonna later this year. We are going to because I told you earlier. I kind of want to do a national parks series.
Yeah.
And you are Route 66 queen because you're the queen of the road trip. So I definitely want to have you back on because I think a lot of people would be super interested in like, hey, what is there to do on Route 66? So next time. Okay, 2 more cards. Which U.S. city-state's flag contains a brown grizzly bear? Is it A, Montana, B, California, C, Colorado?
California.
Yes. Okay. Look at you. 3 for 3.
Yeah, I don't know what Montana's flag looks like.
I don't either. I know what Colorado's flag looks like. I got a big old sweatshirt, but Montana, I don't know. I have not an idea. I've been to Montana once, and it was pretty awesome. I spent the night with strangers.
Is that when you and your bro took your trip across?
Yeah, when we hitchhiked from Atlanta to Seattle. Yeah. Again, for a future podcast. Okay, last one. Let's see if you can go 4 for 4. What was the first U.S. city to host the Olympics?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. I'm not
was
sporty.
It A, Newark, New Jersey, B, St. Louis, Missouri, or C, Miami, Florida?
St. Louis.
Yes, ding, ding, ding. Okay. Did you really know that, or did you just
That
guess?
Was a complete guess. I was just like, I don't feel like Miami ever hosted the Olympics.
Yes.
Nor Newark, but maybe Jersey Shore Olympics.
Yeah, they're gonna have what do they call it? Gym tan laundry.
Yeah.
JTL Olympics.
Oh my gosh, that shows our age. Nobody knows what Jersey
Shore. Right? We're like, I don't even know what that is. Okay, but again, to wrap it up, I just want to give a shout out to your fiance, Crystal, because I know y'all got a wedding coming up. I'm super happy for you. Love you long time. And then I also want to give a shout out to Grayson, who is Crystal's son. So hello, Grayson. And I would love to have him on my show one day to talk about his road trips. Okay. So
he's my little travel buddy. I'm taking it.
Yes.
He's learning to kayak. We drove all over the southern United States, went to NASA. So yeah, he's turning into a good traveler. He likes to travel a lot.
Good. Well, you're a good teacher. He'll get used to disappointment really quickly. And then the things that are more fun are just like even more fun because it's like, we just spent our day in a whorehouse. Let's see what we can do next.
Not at least until he's 13. I don't know if 11 is the right age for that.
Well, get some sleep. Thank you so much for talking to me. This was awesome.
Anytime. It was so good to catch up.
Okay, good. Next one, Route 66. Plan on that one. Start taking notes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I feel like I could dig out all of my maps.
Our destination.
All right. I love your face.
All right,
you too.
Have a great night.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.